Welcome to the Gospel according to Kinison. And I am your illustrious host. I am the man, Bill Kinison. And I am excited. I'm excited to be alive.
Yeah.
Life is exciting. And Sherry, we've had a great week. Got to be with our grandchildren, be with our daughter, our son-in-law. We've had a great week. We really have. And want to thank everyone on. Sherry's been posting pictures every day of her mother. She decided that a tribute to her birthday this year, she would post pictures every day of the month that Pauline was born in. And I got to say, they were interesting. They were very interesting.
I still have a few days to go.
Oh, okay.
I haven't even posted family pictures yet.
Well, I think everybody was her family.
Yes.
You know, we got to, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, we got to spend some time with Roxy and Ed Wright from the church in Rockford at Emmanuel Temple that your mother and father were their pastors, and then you and I became their pastors. Wonderful, wonderful people. And Ed has Alzheimer's. And, but I thought it was interesting in what he could remember. And when J.R. and Pauline McFadden's name came up, he said they were great ministers at the church. And then I don't know how many times he asked Sherry who she was. And then she said, you know, and then he could remember those four Kinison brothers and how great they were. And then he said, I think the pastor's daughter married one of them. And Sherry said, yeah, he's sitting right here. Right here. But we had a wonderful time with Kathy and Edwina. And Edwina's husband, I think it's Roger, if I'm right. Was that his? I think that's her husband's name. But we hadn't seen them. Well, I guess the last time we seen Ed and Roxy was at your father's.
8 years. Yeah,
so 8 years, but Edwina and Kathy, we haven't seen probably in over 30 years. And it was a great time. I have a couple of prayer requests. A man in Upland, actually, from our hometown, Buddy Bertino. He had kept videoing, what do you call that, a video chat? Mm-hmm. And I don't usually respond to those, but I thought, he's so persistent, and I responded. He was in a hospital bed. And so we prayed with him, and then I just got a message that they had moved him to the rehab. But I told him, I said, buddy, I'm not just praying for you. We're going to mention this on Sunday, and we have hundreds of people that respond to those prayer requests. And so...
Buddy just came on. Buddy's watching.
And Buddy just came on, so he knows we're talking about him. Anyhow, so I want everyone to join with me and pray for Buddy. He's went through some real tests physically, and I want to do that. Also, August Kaufman and her daughter Ivy is the one that made the little pins with not only Sam, but I think she made also the Gospel according to Kinison. And so, but we want to remember her husband, Stephen, in prayer. He works for the glass company. And they're trying to decide if they're going to go on strike. And that's the only income they have there. So remember her in prayer, would you please? Also, yesterday, we had mentioned when Tom Thomas transitioned to the next existence. And yesterday they had the ceremony and the celebration of his life. And Sherry and I were not be able to attend. We're in Texas, and that's back in California. But we had so many friends that have contacted us and tell us how wonderful it was. And so we want to stand with Ann, his wife, his daughters Maggie, Elizabeth, and Katie, and the grandchildren and the son-in-laws. And Sherry Tom was known by a lot of people. He was an insurance man. He was our insurance man at the theater and our home. And he was on the city council, I believe, for 3 terms, if I'm not mistaken. He's also on the San Antonio Water Board. I served with him. I was on the planning commission, but I also served with him on several other committees and foundations. And you almost had to be that if you knew Tom, you liked him. And I guess they had a tremendous turnout, and it was actually in the backyard of their house that he had just finished. And I know he worked a lot of time on it, spent a lot of money on it. And but we want to encourage the Thomas family today. I've always said the toughest part about losing someone isn't when they pass. It's afterwards, when the reality hits you and you have to remind yourself of what actually has went on. That when people say, well, they're in a better place. No, they really are. They're in a place that eye hath not seen, ear hath not heard, and it's never entered into the heart of man or into their imagination. So no matter how wonderful you can imagine, it's better than that. And I really, really believe, I had a experience after my father passed, and it was so real to me that I asked him, would you come back if you could? And he said, as much as I love my children, and he did, as much as I love my children, I wouldn't come back. And it was a tremendous experience. Anyway, also, I talked to a lady in New York. I'm not going to mention her name because I don't want to get her in trouble.
Good morning to Joe Sumter and
Joe.
Jeanette Capuano. They were the first on this morning, and there's so many this morning.
Well, Joe is referred to as the Joe now.
The Joe, okay.
After his experiences, he's not Joe Sumter, he's the Joe.
Okay.
And then Jeanette, she posted something today, and it was a picture of someplace says, bathrooms for costumers only. And I thought, man, that's really narrowing it down. They might have misspelled customers, but it said costumers. And I sat there and laughed. I just thought it was fantastic.
And she makes the best rugulas and sent me a couple dozen back when you were there.
She tried to kill me.
No, I ate them, not you.
I snuck a few.
Oh.
I snuck a few, and she knows that. And she's trying to kill me. But if I'm going to go, let me have arugula, because they are delicious.
And Jack Friedman, good morning. He said, please remember to subscribe to the Gospel According to Kinison YouTube page.
Yes, it doesn't cost you anything.
He just posted it on here.
And it doesn't cost you anything. I've noticed that some preachers are, I guess, getting podcasts and everything, but you got to pay like $20 a month or something to be a subscriber. And Sherry and I have really talked about, and we want to start a podcast. But Sherry, I don't want to charge people. They can send me money, and some people do, by the way. Some people support our ministry financially, and we really, 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 really appreciate it. And I really feel like you get blessed doing that. And but anyway, I was talking to this. Have you got something else?
No, go ahead. Steve Kaufman says he loves the YouTube page.
That is August.
Well,
she's going under an alias of Stephen, her husband, but it's actually August.
Okay.
I don't know how many times I've told you that.
It's all three of them that I think about. I don't just.
Well, that's true. It's Stephen, Ivy, and August. Anyway, this young lady from New York, and she has known me for, I guess maybe 40 years, or close to that. And she called me, she sent me a message. And that over the Easter holidays, she had talked to her sister, and she talked to another lady that had read the Bible and knew scriptures. And they were telling her about hell and everything else. And she told me, said, I felt fear inside of me. And she said, I couldn't argue, and I don't advise you to argue with anyone anyway. But she said, I couldn't argue. And I said, it's amazing because I made some notes this week that before I talked to her, that I said, I think we'll address this. And I want you to write this down. I tell you to write down a lot of things. I want you to write this one thing down or really remember it. And I've said it before, but I really want to stress it. The greatest illusion of man is that the outcome of life is in doubt. That is the greatest illusion of man. And I'd like to say delusion, but it's the greatest illusion of man that the outcome of your life is in doubt. You see, it's this doubt about the ultimate outcome that has created your greatest enemy. And that is fear. If you doubt the outcome, then you must doubt God. You must live in fear and guilt all your life if you can doubt about where you're going to end up, with what your eternal place is going to be. I want to explain that a little bit. You see, all human actions are motivated at their deepest level by one of two emotions, either by fear or by love. Every human thought, every human action, in other words, everything you do and everything you think is based either on love or fear. Think about it. Every human thought, everything you think, everything you do is based on love or fear. You see, we have believed a lie. I'm going to make it as plain as I can this morning. We have believed a lie, and I'd say every one of us has. And that's the lie which you hold as truth about God. But it's a lie. That God cannot be trusted. That's a lie. I'm going to tell you as boldly and as plainly as I can. You to think that God cannot be trusted is a lie. That God's love, now I want you to listen exactly how I'm wording this, that God's love cannot be depended on. Boy. That God's acceptance of you or of all of us is conditional. I definitely want to repeat that. It's a lie. That God's acceptance of us, of you, of God accepting you, is conditional. It is not. That the human or the ultimate outcome is thus in doubt. I'm about to get excited right out of the gate. I know that I'm supposed to be this teacher. But every once in a while I want to yell like a banshee when I get excited, and this excites me. You see, in churches, and when I say in churches, let me make this really clear. Not all churches are bad. Not all churches are wrong. We have several churches that take our program and post it on their Facebook. I have very, very close friends in the ministry. Dr. Dr. Jerry McKinney, called Dr. J. Very, very close friend. I have a very, very close friend in Florida that watches our program every week. But the thing is, in churches, the moment you pledge your highest love, you greet your greatest fear. Think about it. That's in churches, in the organizations. The moment that you pledge your highest love, your love to God, you greet your greatest fear. You see, if you knew who you are you? And don't give me that, I'm a sinner saved by grace. You've never been a sinner. That was over 2,000 years ago that price was paid. You have to know who you are. You are a child of God. Somebody said, I've never been to church. Doesn't make any difference. Somebody said, you don't know how bad I am. It doesn't make any difference. All you have to do is know who you are, that you are a child of God, that God dwells in you. Somebody said, I've never been to the altar. I don't care. Those are not the qualifications. That's the qualifications that the church has put on you. It even went further when I was a child. You couldn't just get saved and go to heaven. You had to be a member of our church to get to heaven. It was a lie. I know I'm being really bold this morning, but I can't help it. If you know who you are created in the image and likeness of God, that you are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created. And you should never fear. Never. You should never fear. But if you don't know who you are, and most time if you don't know who you are, you think you're a whole lot less than that, then all you have is fear. I grew up in the early stages of my life afraid of God. I felt like I told him I loved him, but how can you fear that you love? It was because of what I was told about him, and it affected me. A lot of you listening to me this morning, it has affected your whole life. It has affected how you felt about church. It has affected about how you felt about God. When you get the idea of how much less than the magnificent that you are, you will walk in fear. Somebody said, yeah, but they give me these scriptures. Let me tell you something. First, I think the Bible is the greatest success textbook I have ever read in my life. Now, I'm going to say some things, and Pentecostal people or churches pastors may not agree with them, but it's still the truth. The Old Testament was written, and it was written on how they viewed God. I remember back in the days of Moses, and someone went and plucked corn or did something on the Sabbath. They came to Moses and said, what are we supposed to do? And he thought about it, and then he came back and said, God told me. I hope you're getting this. God told me to kill them. Stone them to death. Well, that was their understanding of God then. Jesus comes and he tells them, I haven't come to get rid of the law. I have come to fulfill the law. And he fulfilled every law of the Old Testament. Then he came out, and I can't say, well, yeah, I can say it. He came out with a new gospel. A gospel the people loved, but the religious establishment didn't like. They brought a lady to him, caught in the very act of adultery. I assume they caught her by herself committing adultery, because you're supposed to kill the man and him, but the man wasn't there. They came to tempt Jesus because he was saying things that went against, it looked like, the Old Testament. And they brought him and they told him, said, Jesus, oh, teacher is what they said, teacher. Trying to be religious. The scripture says that we stone her because she's been caught in the act of adultery. Jesus bows down and starts writing in the dirt. Now, no one knows. I've heard preachers come up with, oh, this is what he wrote. No one knows what he wrote. And after he wrote it, he stood up and said, you that have not committed sin, throw the first stone. Well, they all started leaving. They wanted to get out of there for the light shone on them. Then it ended up being just he and the woman. Now remember, Moses said that if they work on the Sabbath, kill them. And the law back then was if you was caught in the act of adultery, they stoned you. Jesus speaks to this woman, and it's just him and her. And he says, where are your accusers? And she said, only you. Jesus said, neither do I condemn you. Totally different message than what they had heard all through the Old Testament. Well, I want to tell you something today. And he also went, I want to finish that, because he also went and said, go and sin no more. In the original Greek, it went, go and you will not sin in this area again. Why? She had met forgiveness. She had met love. All fear was gone. That's the God that I want to teach you about. You see, where did you get the idea that you're not a child of the God of the universe? And I mean in a very personal, intimate way. We have atheists that watch us. We have Buddhists that watch us. We have Taoists that watch us. We have people in India that watch us every week. We have people in Africa that watch us every week. There is a new message, or let's put it this way, there's a new interpretation of the message. And that is this: the churches perceive God in the way that they tell it, which is a God you cannot trust. Even though they'll sing and they'll say it. It is a God that has a conditional love if you're going to make it. There are conditions that you have to meet, they tell you. Well, the new message is, no, there isn't. God loves you. The outcome has already been decided. Man, it's already been decided where you're going to spend life after this life is over. It's already been decided. And I want to tell you, it's not hell. It's not torment. Oh, man. Sherry, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. You see, from the only people whose word you would take on everything, that's pastors, ministers, sometimes even your mother and father, sometimes your siblings. These are the people who say they love you the most. Then why would they lie to you? It was your church, and I don't care what church you went to. It was your church that taught you love is conditional. Cannot smoke. You cannot drink. You cannot cuss. You cannot envy. You cannot hate. They put all these conditions on you. And then God will love you. No. He loves you regardless. He loves you regardless. Man. You see, don't look at how big the need is. Look at how big the God in you is. I used to wonder as a child, and they actually made it a kind of a sanctification. First, if you came to our church and it looked like you had money, God forgive you drove a Cadillac up. God forgive you came in with a mink on. God forgive if you look prosperous. And really, God forgive if you were prosperous. Because we knew, because we'd been taught that if you were prosperous, you were not going to heaven. That money was sin. That prosperity was sin. And I used to sit in that pew, and we'd see these new people come in, and you could tell they had money. First, we really didn't welcome that many new people anyway. We'd see they had money. And I would sit there and wonder, why do they have the money, the prosperity, the success? They look healthy. Here we are serving a God that they say loves us but leaves us sick, poor, discouraged, disappointed. Our testimony, it would even get into our testimony. Our testimony was, I want you to pray that I can hold on to the end because it's tough. It's tough. No, it's not tough. They were lying to you. If you keep your eyes on circumstances, if you keep your eyes on what you're going through, you'll cause your circumstances and what you're going through to defeat you. We need to be an example of God on the earth. We should have in order to walk successfully, to walk as if we have money, to walk as if we're healthy. Let the weak say I'm strong. Let the poor say I'm rich. Let the down say I'm up. Man, I'm trying to relax. Just relax, Bill. I know you get excited over this because it sets people free. They'll even say the truth, know the truth, and the truth will make you free, and they're the most bound people in the world. You see, the victory is in keeping your eyes on how big God is. Sherry, don't tell me there's 1 minute left. I'm just now getting to the lesson. I was just giving them the preamble. See, the God in you has promised to take you step by step by step. Not all at once, but step by step, and each step will be a miracle, and He has promised that to you. We are told by authorities who are making a study of the mind that man can create anything he can imagine. that the mental image does make the conditions. And the experience of a man's life and affairs, the man's only limitation lies in the negative use of imagination. I watched a movie called I Can Only Imagine. It's a story about a young boy that was physically and mentally and verbally abused by his father. But he had a dream he was going to be a singer. And he had a lot of tough times, but he kept that dream. And finally, it's a true story actually. Finally, he wrote a song called I Can Only Imagine. And I'm trying to think of the gospel singer, the woman that had agreed to record it and sing it. I want to say Melissa Etheridge, but I don't know if that's for sure. But anyway, so in her first concert that she's going to sing this, she got up ready to sing it. And when she started to sing it, she said the man that wrote this song, she stopped and said he should sing it because he knows it. And he got up, and of course the crowd just went great. I love you all. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this moment that we've had this morning. I wish I had an hour this morning. God, I ask that you enlighten every one of us. My prayer is that they don't believe the lies, but believe the truth about them. Cause healing to come into their life. Cause blessing to come into their life. Cause success to come into their life and prosperity. And we will all give you the praise. Amen. God love every one of you. Sherry loves you. I love you. We'll see you next week.